If an intangible asset has been acquired separately, it is measured at cost. The costs criteria, similar as what we looked at under IAS 16. The second is where an intangible asset has been acquired as part of a business combination. Where it has been acquired as part of the business combination, we borrow from IFRS 3 business combination, which requires that such an intangible asset should be measured at fair value. The third is internally generated goodwill. Now, internally generated goodwill is a goodwill which results from the reputation of the organization. This goodwill, in as much as the standard recognizes that it is there, but the standard prohibits such goodwill to be recognized in the financial statements. So we just acknowledge that it is there, but we cannot recognize it in the financial statements. The fourth one is an intangible asset acquired by a government grant. Okay. This is where you've been given a grant by the government and you use that grant to acquire an intangible asset. The assets in the grant will be measured at fair value or nominal amount plus expenditure directly attributable to prepare that intangible asset for its intended use. The last one is internally generated intangible assets. An internally generated intangible asset has to meet 6 criteria, and all 6 criteria have to be met for it to qualify to be capitalized. Failure to meet any of those 6 criteria, such expenditure for an intangible asset is taken as research and is expensed in the P&L. But if it meets the 6 criteria, then it is taken as development phase and then it must be capitalized. So quickly go through the 6 criteria. The first one, which you have met before, it is probable that future economic benefits will flow to the entity. The second one is that the entity must have the intention to complete developing this intangible asset for its intended use or sale. The third one is that the entity must have adequate resources, and these resources must be available to complete the asset for its intended use or sale. The fourth one is that the entity must have the ability to complete developing the intangible asset for its intended use or sale. Fifth one, there must be technical feasibility of completing the asset for its intended use or sale. And finally, the expenditure can be measured reliably. All of these 6 must be met for the asset to be, for the intangible asset to be capitalized. Is it clear? Then there's measurement after recognition. Measurement after recognition, the standard requires that the entity can either continue with the cost model, less accumulated amortization and impairment losses, or the entity can use the revaluation model. If it uses the revaluation model, the intangible asset to be carried at the revalued amount, less subsequent accumulated depreciation and impairment losses. Again, just like under IAS 16, if the revaluation model is used, the revaluation must be at fair value at the date of the revaluation by reference to an active market. We will look at an active market when we come to IFRS 13 fair value measurement. Just like under IAS 16, when you revalue an intangible asset, all other assets in the same class must be revalued unless there is no active market for them, in which case the cost model is used for those assets. Clear? Just like under 16, an intangible asset is amortized. IAS 16 we depreciated, IAS 38 we amortize. So amortization and depreciation are the same thing, only that one is used for tangible assets, the other one is used for intangible assets. If an asset has got a finite life, the depreciable amount is allocated on a systematic basis over the intangible asset's useful life. It is usually assumed that the residual value of an intangible asset is 0. Now, you need to determine when the intangible asset has been brought into use. That is the time when you start amortizing it. You may be capitalizing the cost of that intangible asset as you are developing it, but you cannot start amortizing it until that intangible asset has been brought into use. Okay? The useful life in the amortization method must be reviewed at least at each financial year end and adjusted where necessary. Finally, we look at indefinite useful life, where an intangible asset has an indefinite useful life. If an intangible asset has an indefinite useful life,